Hello, everyone. My name is Raby, and this is for the Western Region Public Health Training Center. So today I will be presenting on effects of previous burning on California wildfire emissions and smoke PM2.5 exposure. So just to give some background, wildfires have been intensifying in California over the past few decades, and this is generating an accompanying increase in the public health burden that comes from smoke exposure, for example, from negative health outcomes such as cardiopulmonary conditions. So this project aimed to look at what the impact of repeat burning is on population smoke exposure from wildfires. So first, we looked at to what extent California has reburned over the last around 35 years using data from the Monitoring Trends in Burn Severity database. Then we looked at how reburns could influence fire severity, looking at sensitive fires just from 2018. And then finally, we modeled for 4 case fires from 2018, how a reburn could alter the resulting smoke PM2.5 exposure. So first, we found over the last 35 years, California has reburned almost 60,000 kilometers, and of this, around 10,000 kilometers, or around 18%, has reburned. And just looking at the 2018 fires, that's the most recent or most extreme fire season on record in the MTBS database. Burn severity was reduced overall in reburn areas as compared to non-reburn areas. And severity also was reduced with greater reburn count, and as more years passed since a reburn, severity tended to increase slightly. And then we modeled 4 example fires from 2018 because these fires had greater than 50% overlap with a previous previous burn within the last 10 years. And we did find PM2.5 reductions for all 4 case fires with the reburn scenario, although this varied widely by fuel type, with 3 of the fires that were smaller grassland fires having very modest decreases in PM2.5 generated as compared to the campfire, which burned a mixed conifer and shrubland area. And that generated a lot larger decreases in PM2.5 for the reburn scenario. And while this might not look like a lot in this graphic on this slide, it resulted in 42,000 fewer people being exposed to smoke PM2.5, exceeding the EPA standard of 35 micrograms per meter squared. And so just to conclude here, we saw reduced burn severity in general for repeat burns in California, but there were limitations on the impacts for pollution exposure that accompanied reburns, with reburns that burned in grassland areas or for smaller fires, not really seeing reductions to PM2.5 exposure that were significant for public health. But limitations of this research were that there's limited data access for fire histories and fuel loading, fuel consumption in California. We also were not able to correct for background PM2.5 exposure from anthropogenic sources. So that means that our population estimates for the number of people who are exposed to PM2.5 in exceedance of the EPA standards are underestimates. And looking forward, we need future research to further define what the ideal conditions are for a prescribed burn or a managed wildfire, if the goal is to reduce the smoke exposure in exceedance of EPA standards from burns in the future. And finally, I would just like to thank my mentor, Dr. Miriam Marlier, for her guidance, and to our funding sources, which include the Western Region Public Health Training Center, the UCLA Society of Hellman Fellows, UCLA's Graduate Division, and the Environmental Health Sciences Department at UCLA. Thank you.